Hi, my name is Jenna Gibson. Welcome to my presentation for my research proposal. It's titled Generative Artificial Intelligence Usage in Reference Services at Academic Libraries, a Qualitative Methods Approach. So first up, we'll talk a bit about the background and significance of the research. Artificial intelligence, also known as AI, is a really hot topic at the moment, and libraries have already started to be affected by AI as the technology continues to grow. Generative AI especially is a technology that is constantly evolving and expanding. Throughout my research, I've come to realize that there are many different definitions of AI, so to kick things off, I want to define both AI and generative AI. According to Jay Campbell, AI is generally defined as a tool that automates intelligent human skills and behaviors, such as communication or problem solving. More specifically, generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence technology that can make content such as audio, images, text, and videos. One of the most common examples of generative AI is ChatGPT, a chatbot that can essentially produce any content requested by the user, and it's probably the one you've heard of most. That said, libraries have an opportunity to use generative AI to not only better help patrons and improve the overall user experience, but also to enhance library services and back-end operations. But that requires librarians to understand not only the technology, but also how it's actually being used in reference services. This research builds off existing literature in the field and fills a gap that currently exists relating to the impact of generative AI in reference services at academic libraries. There's not a lot of literature that explores AI in reference services at academic or public libraries in detail, but the articles that do talk about it mainly focus on chatbots. This qualitative study will explore the attitudes that academic librarians and patrons have about generative AI usage in reference services at academic libraries. And the study will also explore how generative AI is actually being used in reference services. The findings of this research will create a path for libraries to use generative AI in reference services and will give librarians a foundation to better understand attitudes that librarians and patrons have about generative AI. As AI continues to become more popular, academic libraries can use generative AI to improve operations and the employee experience, as well as assisting patrons efficiently and effectively, but they must be knowledgeable about the technology. The literature review is going to be broken up into 3 slides. First, reference services in academic libraries. Second, AI usage and attitudes about AI. And third, ethical concerns about artificial intelligence. Most of the research about AI and academic libraries does not focus on the actual implementation of the technology. Instead, it focuses on past literature or interviews about how librarians feel about the future of AI. A lot of the literature is pretty basic since the research is also pretty new. According to the Reference and User Services Association, reference services provide assistance by using expertise in response to an information need. For example, reference services could be retrieving information for users or helping users with navigation. The COVID-19 pandemic and the rise of advanced technology also led to the growth of virtual reference services in libraries. In a 2019 survey by Onyesi et al., 70.4% of respondents said they were dissatisfied or very dissatisfied with internet reference services at libraries. Librarians have been trying to figure out how to boost efficiency while still maintaining accuracy and being thorough with their responses. With generative AI, academic libraries can enhance efficiency, improve the user experience, and streamline operations. A Salesforce report shows that 45% of the U.S. population uses AI, but as AI adoption grows, the majority of librarians are slow to apply it into operations and services. Only 25% of academic librarians in a recent survey by Yoon et al. Stated that they use AI. When it comes to reference services, AI-enabled chatbots are a common tool that a lot of academic libraries have already started using. Generative AI can help librarians by automating tasks such as instructing users, sharing information, cataloging, or collection development. AI can also be used to anticipate user needs and personalize responses, or even do the reference interview. Many library users are excited about the opportunity to use AI in information services, but others are concerned about potential implications on user privacy or accuracy. Librarians can often be hesitant to introduce new technology into our operations because of resistance to change and lack of training. And there's also a low adoption rate of AI in academic libraries due to fears of job loss when AI is used. Last but not least, ethical considerations are big concerns for libraries considering using AI. Implicit bias, privacy, and AI authorship are three of the top ethical concerns brought up in literature. To counter these issues, the IFLA developed a guide for librarians to ethically and responsibly implement AI. Librarians have an opportunity to leverage AI to be inclusive and meaningful, but it requires librarians to be trained in AI and knowledgeable about ethical concerns. For this study, I'll use a qualitative phenomenological design as my research design. I plan to study the lived experience of participants and their perceptions about the use of generative AI. I wanted to use a qualitative approach because data is collected through interviews with open-ended questions. This method allows participants to give rich answers on the subject matter. This research also uses the constructivist worldview because of the subject matter and qualitative research methods used. The findings of this research heavily depend on the thoughts of the individuals being interviewed, so there's a large focus on meaning being drawn inductively. Next up, we have our research questions. Question 1 is, how do academic librarians and patrons feel about the use of generative AI in reference services at the university library? Question 2 is, how do generative AI tools such as ChatGPT and virtual assistants impact the role of the librarian in reference services tasks at academic libraries? Question 3 is, what are students' attitudes about connecting with librarians through generative AI, such as virtual assistant and ChatGPT in reference services? So for our data collection methods, for the study population will consist of librarians at 3 academic libraries and 15 to 20 students and 1 four-year university, 1 private college, and 1 two-year community college. The study will use voluntary sampling to recruit participants, and informed consent will be needed from each person. I'll hold one-on-one interviews with participants to better understand the feelings and impacts of generative AI in reference services at academic libraries. In each interview, I will also ask open-ended questions to librarians and students, and I'll hold these interviews in the academic library setting. For my data analysis strategy, I'll collect interview data from recordings, transcriptions, and notes from the interviews with participants. Then, I'll put the data into similar themes and patterns. From there, I'll use a narrative analysis strategy for coding the qualitative data with help from a computer analysis software. Potential ethical issues are consent, confidentiality, and accessibility. I've already touched on informed consent, but I will obtain signed documents from participants before the interview. With interviews being held in person at the library, confidentiality will be an issue, but I won't use any subject indicators in my research. Accessibility will also be a potential issue since AI is an advanced technology. This will also be a limitation since the findings would be inconclusive if the majority of participants have never used or interacted with generative AI. To address potential ethical issues, I will inform participants at the beginning of the interview what it will involve, and I'll standardize the data collection process. For my timeline, the research design and planning stages of the study have taken approximately 2 months. Data collection will last 2 months, where I'll recruit the participants and do the interviews. From there, it will take me about 2 months to analyze the data, and lastly, I'll finish drafting the research study, which will take approximately 1 month. That wraps up my presentation on my research proposal on the topic of generative AI usage in reference services at academic libraries. Here are my references in 2 slides. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.